Hey, Joseph here. I am back at our new listing in Fort Lauderdale. It's coming soon, and we've been working on the landscape and with Howard Tonkin here in Urban Habitat. So I just wanted to do a little walk and talk a little bit so he can tell you some of the things he's been doing in this yard. So where do you want to start, Howard?
We can start right here with the butterfly garden. So what we have right here are some coreopsis or tick seed, and that is actually Florida's state wildflower. We have the tropical salvia planted throughout here, and this tropical salvia is essential for painted buntings. If you look up painted buntings, they're one of the most beautiful little birds in the world. Also, they bring hummingbirds. So the idea is that you'll be having these salvias out here and be able to sit in the living room and enjoy hummingbirds all winter long, as well as lots of milkweed that's supporting the endangered monarch butterfly. They're headed for extinction. So by planting the milkweed here, we support the monarch butterflies. There's goldenrods that are classic South Florida, and then the blue salvias, and Lantana depressa, another endangered species, snow square stem, and pineland heliotropium. They're all on the endangered species list. And then we've just got some other classic Florida wildflowers like black-eyed Susans and lyre leaf sage and the blue mist flower that's also on the endangered species list. And then over here,
Yeah, you did
we've
something
built,
special here, right? Because it's the rain gutter.
yeah, so in South Florida, part of our interaction with green space is about changing our relationship with stormwater here. So instead of just trying to get rid of all the stormwater and flushing it out, here we've built a little rain garden with some swamp milkweed, some tick seed that is Florida state wildflower, some blue flag iris, and some more native milkweed, some black-eyed Susan, some climbing aster, and those plants there are more water loving. So when this floods in a thunderstorm, a rain shower, the water collects here, and that sustains this little micro habitat there. And then I don't know if you can see back behind here, but this plant here is interesting. So this one here has been extinct for 100 years in South Florida, and this plant has just been reintroduced to South Florida from extinction in the last few years, and is really successful as an agricultural industry plant. So this plant here has really beautiful little blue flowers and was actually rediscovered in a property development in the Cayman Islands in 2006. So they came in to do a resort development and had to do an environmental assessment first, and they rediscovered this species of plant growing in one small plot of land. And so after 100 years of extinction, we're reintroducing this plant to South Florida, and it smells beautiful, and it's beautiful flowers. These are muhly grass that have beautiful purple sprays of grass in the fall, and the flowers are amazing. And then something that's interesting is that this should actually be called Pineland Croton Howard Tonkin, because I actually kind of discovered this subspecies. So this is a native croton that is slightly different from the endangered species Pineland Croton, and slightly different from the Gulf Croton. And this was growing on one rock that was a plant that I identified as something a little different. And so a farmer did some cuttings. And what we have here is a croton growing in this front garden. Yeah, this is definitely the only house in all of Broward County that has this plant.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily rare endangered species.
Because that was definitely the goal. This house. It had some landscaping, but it needed a little love and a little more curb appeal. And so we called Howard to see what we could do and do something that was going to be more sustainable, and that was going to be a little biodiversity and actually help the planet, as opposed to just doing the standard stuff. And then you've got a row along the fence here.
What's great about this here, if you actually smash this and smell that, that's wax myrtle. So wax myrtle not only provides beautiful privacy, a nice thick hedge, fast growing. It has a really delightful foliage to it that's more reminiscent of like a Mediterranean style garden. But apart from supporting birds, what's so wonderful about this is it repels mosquitoes. So that smell you smell is the original mosquito repellent of the Tequesta Indians. And this plant, when it's planted around properties, actually dissuades mosquitoes from coming around. So it's really beneficial. And then on the Mediterranean vibe, we've got the Spanish stoppers. And these Spanish stoppers that are spaced out throughout the property are shade tolerant, drought tolerant, produce beautiful red berries, and have a cylindrical columnar growth habit. So this plant, 2 feet from the fence, only gets 4 feet wide. It's going to occupy this space, go straight vertical, and create a really pleasant line of sight on the eye, privacy, and have like a nice columnar
Yeah, so
compact
you've
habit to it.
definitely done something here different than the typical clusia hedge that we see everywhere.
Yes, well, the clusia is really a monoculture that we need to move away from. And what we've done here is put, the right plants in the right location. So we've used a small combination. So we've got a repetition, which is pleasing on the eye, but at the same time, we've used white indigo berry, which is endangered species listed, fantastic for nesting birds. The wax myrtle, fantastic for birds, getting rid of mosquitoes, and the Spanish stopper, that's also fantastic for birds and also pollinators. Yeah, so all these plants also have beautiful little white flowers that are going to support the butterflies, which gets us onto the kuntis and the Atala butterflies. So one plant that we have in the garden that's very special is these kuntis, right? So these kuntis, we have them in the backyard and the front yard. These plants are older than the dinosaurs. They've been around. They're on the endangered species list, and they were exploited to almost extinction because they were so popular as a source of flour for the early settlers who learned how to make flour from this poisonous plant. Um, but the thing is instead of farming it, they just ripped it all out of the ground until the Atala butterfly was extinct. And the Atala is really the poster child of environmental restoration in South Florida, because that butterfly was rediscovered by Roger Hammer on Key Biscayne in 1976, and it's been reintroduced in the urban setting. So we've actually had Atala butterflies in this garden already.
Yeah,
I got a
I saw
picture.
as you were putting in the initial plantings that we had butterflies showing up,
Yeah,
almost
I was
immediately.
just looking for eggs because I have another project in Fort Lauderdale that's full of Atala butterflies, and I was explaining to the client what a miracle it is. Here's the Salvia caminensis with the little flowers on it, um, which is basically, this is like looking at like a white rhinoceros, something amazing, almost extinct. And this is what's so important, is this pine tree, right? So you see these needles? That is what birds need to make nests. So birds are going extinct because everybody's got a lawn and a clusia hedge or a podocarpus hedge, and there's no more nesting material for birds. So the birds don't have food, the birds don't have nesting material. That's free mulch, beautiful mulch, and wonderful for birds. This is a pine tree. These are the trees that we need for the oxygen we breathe.
Yep.
So by planting this tree, we're restoring one tree in what was the original canopy of this neighborhood. And so this is a really good omen for this property. It's a really good vibe here to have this species supported and bring back the original trees from this neighborhood and provide oxygen. And eventually this tree will help with the electricity bill. So we've got a tree. It's always good to have, the gumbo here and the Pinus ellioti here. Eventually they'll shade the house, and then that will give it a cut on the electric bill by a couple $100 a month in summer.
Okay, that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
we're gonna keep coming back here and shooting the progress as all these trees and plants mature, and keep your eyes out for when this home hits the market, and I don't know what else.
You have a